I don't know about you all, but one of my favorite things about video games is the anticipation. I know it's so common for people to argue that you shouldn't get excited for future titles because you might get let down, but for me, if anything, that's the exact opposite. I love getting excited for games. It's half the reason I'm even here in the first place. And if anything, 2025 is shaping up to be an awesome year, not just for AAA, but for indie titles alike, a bunch of which I'm really excited for. So today, I wanted to come in and tell you guys about each and every single game I'm excited for this coming year, and what I'm excited about for each game, and where I hope they go. So sit back and relax, and I hope you all enjoy. First up, let's talk about a title that I don't think has nearly enough hype right now, because I think it has the potential to be one of the best upcoming games this year, and that's actually sitting right on my desk here. It's called Exodus. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's from a lot of the developers of the original Mass Effect games, a lot of the BioWare veterans. There's been a lot of trailers coming out recently and a little bit of gameplay as well, which I'll show you guys some on screen here. But overall, what I'm most excited about for this property is how amazing the world building and lore is. This is a real sci-fi game that has deep themes, crazy history, and a lot of science fiction topics that are very interesting to dive into. Because you see, for any of you guys who haven't looked into Exodus yet, it has some of the best and most interesting world building out there. Secret Level actually has an episode called Odyssey on the Exodus universe as well, which I highly recommend you guys check out because it's a good entry point into what this series is all about. But for someone like myself, who's already read this 900-page book, of which a sequel is coming out soon, I can't tell you how amazing this world is. There's so much potential on offer here. And if I'm being honest, some of the gameplay shown in trailers that they've had for the game so far look good, but not quite amazing. But what I can say is, as someone that's dived into the lore on the wiki pages, read the book that's already out, watched every episode of anything they have on Netflix or any other series, this truly has the potential to be one of the best universes of all time. And that's because the universe of Exodus has so many cool concepts. Just to kind of give you guys a quick rundown of what it's all about, humanity leaves Earth, and thousands of years later, Ark ships arrive in the Centauri cluster. And then over thousands of more millennia, these original human beings transform into celestial, almost alien-like civilizations, after which more and more Ark ships of the original human race start to arrive. And it just is such an amazing setup for a universe with so much potential. There's tons and tons of aliens with different cultures, science, and ideas for the world and what it means. There's even factions like the Mariama, which love to kidnap human beings on Ark ships and keep them alive as they torment them in demented dreams and pull from their souls. And others that just have cities that reach into the sky, and ships that travel through gates of heaven that go near light speed and cause time dilation, meaning if you go on a mission, you might come back to find your loved ones now 50 years older. And on top of that, for any of you guys who haven't read the book, one thing I'm hoping really comes into the game is all of the political warfare. The book itself is almost like a spy thriller, where all of these different celestial organizations are doing weird guerrilla warfare, tons of awesome gadgets and strange technologies, all to spy on one another in what they call the Great Game. And when you tie that all in with some gameplay in the trailers that does look pretty fun, and some really breathtaking scenes, I can't express how excited I am to see if the Archetype team can pull Exodus off. Because regardless if this game is actually amazing or not, I really hope it is, this universe is awesome. I absolutely adore it. And as someone that loves the original Mass Effect, it's one of the games that got me into gaming in the first place and made me fall in love with RPGs, I genuinely think that Exodus has even more potential. This is a sci-fi property on the level of Dune, Star Wars, Star Trek, and any other property you can think of. I think there's a reason that Wizards of the Coast has been putting out so many things, books, movies, board games, because they genuinely believe not just in this game, but in the universe that is being built here. And if you guys are even slightly into science fiction, I highly recommend you start looking into the lore behind this game, whether that's getting the book, going to the wiki online, or watching the trailers, because if this game's even half decent, it could be the start of something truly amazing. All right, next up, let's talk about a game that is from a series a lot of you will be surprised I've never played, and that's Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. You see, I've never actually played the first game, despite only hearing absolutely raving and amazing things from every player that I trust. But the thing is, after watching a gameplay preview for a couple of hours, I think I'm starting to understand what makes Kingdom Come Deliverance so amazing. And for me at least, that's the immersive sim elements. The fact that you can walk into towns in different attire and people will notice, that it feels so realistic traversing the backlands and woodlands of this medieval era. Or having to keep your shield and sword well kept, lest they fall apart mid-battle and you find yourself screwed. It's just one of those games that doesn't have a problem with fully immersing you into each and every scene. And personally, because immersive sims are my favorite genre along with RPGs, this is a match made in heaven for me, and I'm so surprised I've never actually tried it. For any of you that watch the live streams, which I do on Sundays, I am going to start playing the first game before the second one comes out in February, but in the meantime, I'm so excited for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Not only because I finally get to jump into this series that's eluded me for so long, but because it looks like something I'd genuinely be interested in. The type of game that isn't trying to copy the same thing over and over like say a Ubisoft open world, but something really trying to be unique, bringing something different to the table and something that's of the utmost quality and love and care. And from what I've seen with these devs on social media as well, you can tell how much they love working on this series, and that passion bleeds off the page. I can't speak too much to what mechanics I'm looking forward to or what I want to change from the first game, as I haven't started yet as of recording this video here, but regardless, I'm so interested to see if I really do end up loving Kingdom Come Deliverance, because by all accounts, it's the exact type of game that I should adore, so I'm looking forward to it. And now, we have a game that you all knew was coming on this list here. Not only the most anticipated game of 2025, but one of the most anticipated games of all time, Grand Theft Auto 6. And you know, the funny thing is, I've actually never been a huge fan of the Grand Theft Auto series, or really Rockstar game design in general. You see, when I was growing up and all of my friends were playing GTA 4 and 5, I always tended to gravitate to the more hardcore RPGs. They just spoke to me more, and I found that getting in car chases in GTA got old really fast. But here's the thing. One of my favorite things about every Rockstar game, but especially Grand Theft Auto, is every new release really pushes the industry forward, unlocking new technologies or new ways to play that genuinely make a change on the entire gaming medium. Whether or not you actually like Grand Theft Auto as a series or Rockstar as a developer, it doesn't matter. This is the type of game that no other game can come close to, a juggernaut of which other games will completely change release dates lest they fail as a product. The release of GTA 6 isn't just a game. It's a phenomenon, a trailer that got over 200 million views in just a year, and an entertainment product that pretty much is guaranteed to be the biggest of all time upon release, whether that's games, movies, or television. And now that I'm a little older as well for this release of GTA, I'm excited to finally be in the zeitgeist of it all happening. I feel like I never got into the hype cycle with GTA 4 and 5, so this time I can't wait to play day one on release and just explore Vice City, go on the beaches, go to clubs, steal cars, and see how fun and interesting the missions are. Because after all, Rockstar does have some really amazing writing, as we've all seen in GTA 4, 5, and Red Dead Redemption. And as a software developer myself, it's really fun to see developers push the envelope of what's possible with current day technology. And if there's one game this year I'm excited for on that front, it's far and away GTA 6. I'm imagining the physics, the graphics, the AI will all be really advanced and fun to play around with, and I can't wait to see what the next Grand Theft Auto that we'll be playing for the next decade will be like. Next up, we have a game that's really near and dear to my heart, and that's Citizen Sleeper 2. For those of you who haven't seen my review of the first game on the main channel, I highly recommend it. Because for me, the first Citizen Sleeper game was one of the most underrated I'd ever played. As you guys now famously probably know on this channel, I'm not a big fan of Disco Elysium. Sure, I do love some of what it has to say, especially its commentary on love, but overall, I find it a little bit pretentious, and I just don't like the setting that much, albeit I totally understand why people love it. So ironically, when I first started playing Citizen Sleeper, a game that in many ways is very similar, being text-heavy with little gameplay, I was assuming I would not like it very much. But when I say by the end of this game, I felt things that almost no games ever have given me, I'm not joking. The first Citizen Sleeper, at least, has some really deep and meaningful messages, and through the game's medium has really clever ways of showing you the tales it's trying to tell and giving you the lessons it's trying to teach. It's one of those games that where if you watch gameplay or just hear someone talk about it, it doesn't sound very fun, and that's because it isn't very fun. Citizen Sleeper is more of an experience and less of a game. It's the type of thing that makes you think about life, about meaning, about future, animatronics, AI, and also spacefaring races and what it means for humanity. And it's also the type of game that focuses on us, about human relationships between one another, about finding the good in a world that's so bad. And as an undying optimist myself, that message spoke to me so strongly in the first Citizen Sleeper. In a sea of so many games that are all about violence, negativity, and why the world or everyone around us sucks, Citizen Sleeper stands in the face of that and tells us that the world out there is beautiful and is worth fighting for. And that is just a message I connect with so much. And I'm really hoping Citizen Sleeper 2 can once again connect with me on that level that so few games do. Because at the end of the day, while I love fun games, or games to play with friends, or good-looking games with cool set pieces, what I really look for in games that I play is messages that really make me think and contemplate on my own life too. And if there's any title out there that does that well, it's the first Citizen Sleeper game. And from all the trailers and everything we've seen so far, Citizen Sleeper 2 is shaping up to do the same. And personally for me, I'm hoping that the second installment can just add a lot more gameplay RPG mechanics, have more dice rolls and more random encounters happening, have different types of gadgets that we can use in every single narrative element. That way, it becomes more engaging not just to listen to and hear about, but actually play. Alright, now let's talk about Obsidian, because they somehow have two big games coming out in the same year, both of which I'm extremely excited for. And that's Avowed and Outer Worlds 2. First up, Avowed is from the Pillars of Eternity universe, and I actually got around to playing Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 for the first time back last year, and I have to say, I can't believe it took me so long to get into this series. Pillars of Eternity, without exaggeration, are some of the best RPGs I have ever played in my life. The main story and takeaways of especially the first game are extremely captivating, discussing ideas of religion, civilization, ancient prophecies, and what it even means to be alive, to be a god, to be human. And when you combine that in with a really genius spell system that's obviously made first and foremost for video games rather than tabletop like D&D and Pathfinder, it's just such an amazing world to get lost in. I truly loved especially Pillars of Eternity 1, and in Pillars of Eternity 2 the combat was even better and had some amazing portions as well. And while Avowed is going a completely different route, that being first and third person, more action heavy in a new area of the entire universe, I'm genuinely so excited to see where they take the lore in this game. Because you know, when I first saw the trailers for Avowed, I was actually pretty turned off by the gameplay, the colors, the design. It just didn't feel like what I wanted from the next step of the Pillars Eternity universe. However, after watching some of the more recent gameplay previews, I'm now back on board for this game. It looks really fun, it looks like it has a lot of immersive sim elements as well, where you can sneak around and get into hard to reach places, and even more than that, the story potential and setup on offer here looks really interesting. And for me, what I think will make or break Avowed is that story, is the world building. If the story and world building in Avowed are really good, I think I will love this game. But if they're just okay, then I would imagine I'm probably not going to enjoy it very much. And that's because as much as I hated the Pillars of Eternity combat at first, once you spend hours and hours with it, the complexity and depth on offer there is just something that's impossible to reach in something that's a third-person or first-person action adventure. So really, it all comes down to how good is that writing, how good is the storytelling, and is the world building of Aora going to be expanded on in interesting ways just like it was in the first Pillars of Eternity? Because if that's all there, well, I'm happy, because that, to me at least, is what Pillars of Eternity is all about. It was never the best looking game of all time, or the most fun to play, or the easiest to get into. It was one that really made you think and fall in love with the world. One that feels so alive with languages that are realistic, towns that actually function like towns, and people that have real ideas and prophecies. So if Avowed specifically can do anything, it's just more of what made the first Pillars of Eternity 1 great, with hopefully a combat system that will bring more and more people into this universe so they can see how amazing it is. Now, let's talk about Outer Worlds 2. Because if I'm being honest, this is the one that I might be even more excited for. Because while I find Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 better RPGs than the Outer Worlds, I'm a really big sci-fi nut. And the Outer Worlds' kind of wacky and zany writing is just so fun. If you guys haven't played Outer Worlds 1 on a dumb playthrough, it is so amazing. There are so many funny lines, interesting moments, crazy quests in that game, and it's just so fun to actually play. It's the type of series that doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's so much better for that. And from what we've seen in the trailers for Outer Worlds 2, that's exactly the vibe they're going for. I love the crony capitalism in all of the sectors, the commentary on our real lives that actually is quite good at seeing both sides of the argument, and overall, the Outer Worlds is just the type of RPG that a lot of people, while they don't enjoy it, I absolutely adore. I actually like the Outer Worlds even more than Fallout, and yes, even Fallout New Vegas, as much as I know you guys will hate me for saying that, because it just hits what I'm looking for in this style of RPG. And also, it's a sci-fi game, which I tend to like sci-fi a lot more than fantasy or modern settings. So while I'm excited for Avowed because I'm hoping it can have some deep, introspective commentary on the world of Eora, I'm excited for the Outer Worlds too because I just want to have some fun like I did in the first game and fall in love with an RPG that's a lot different from other offerings on the market right now. It really is just such a unique take on the genre, and overall, it's crazy to think that Obsidian has two really big RPGs coming out this year that if they both hit, will certainly solidify them as one of the best developers out there right now. Next up, let's talk about another game that I think has a huge chance of winning Game of the Year 2025, and that's Split Fiction. For those of you who haven't played It Takes Two from Hazelight already, it is the best co-op game of all time, in my opinion. Better than Portal, better than Left 4 Dead, and just an amazing experience that not only has a lot of interesting storytelling and heart, but so many amazing gameplay mechanics that all revolve around playing on the couch or with a friend, side by side, watching each other each step of the way. Because you see, the thing that made It Takes Two so special was that every single moment you were playing that game, things were constantly changing. At one point, you could be playing a Diablo-style, over-the-shoulder looter shooter, and the next second, fighting a squirrel in Mortal Kombat. It was just such a fun and endearing game, with so many amazing visuals, really genius game design, and the type of game that was just fun. It wasn't focused on trying to be too serious, just making something that was extremely memorable. And based on the trailer that we've seen for Split Fiction so far, that's exactly what they're going for again. Where's the jump for Hazelight from, say, A Brother, A Tale of Two Sons to A Way Out, and A Way Out to It Takes Two seemed very massive, It Takes Two to Split Fiction seems like they're trying to go for a refinement of a formula. And while I usually don't enjoy that as much, because It Takes Two is such an amazing game, and still so unique with no other developers making anything even similar, I'm actually excited for just more of the same. But I'm hoping that with Split Fiction, they can improve and iterate on so many awesome ideas they already had. I want to see bigger environments, an even better story, more and more game mechanics that are more fleshed out, with tons and tons of different levels and areas to go to, all in sci-fi and fantasy alike. And the more and more I talk about it, the more excited I am for this game. Not only because it's Hazelight making it, one of the most underrated studios in the entire ecosystem, but because this is the type of game that you can truly fall in love with just playing with a friend on the couch. And as someone that loves games but has a ton of friends and family that aren't into them at all, I can promise you playing games like It Takes Two or probably Split Fiction, from what it looks like, are an amazing way to get someone into gaming, to make them see why games are so special and what makes them so fun. And I'm really hoping that Hazelight can pull it off again with Split Fiction, and based on everything we've seen and their entire track record of only amazing games, I have a hunch that they're gonna pull it off. And now we come to yet another game for 2025 that I'm so excited for. There really are so many this year. And that's Subnautica 2. You see, I never got around to playing the first Subnautica and Below Zero until many years after they originally came out. But I have to say, as a transformative experience in games, Subnautica is one of the most amazing and interesting, unique games you can play out there. Traversing deep underwater into dark and murky lands full of monsters of which you can only hear screaming in the distance. Or traveling through kelp fields that look beautiful as they move in the sway of the waves of the ocean. Subnautica is the type of game that you not only play, but you become immersed in. Like building new vehicles or bases of operation from which you can launch bigger travels deeper into the ocean, discovering the grand secrets of everything on offer on this strange planet. And by this point, it's probably likely that all of you watching this video have played Subnautica. It's one of the biggest games out there, and with that comes a concern of capturing that magic again. After all, as we all know, while Subnautica Below Zero is an awesome game, a lot of people don't like it as much as the first. And that's because I think Subnautica 1 is the type of game which is so magical, it's almost impossible to get that magic again. But I'm hoping that with Subnautica 2 and what looks like full multiplayer elements, we might be able to once again explore an underwater utopia, this time with a friend, and uncover secrets of which we only could dream about. And I have to say, I personally think the idea of multiplayer Subnautica is amazing, and that alone might carry this game to be as good as the first, as long as there's a lot of new mechanics and new interesting places to explore. But regardless, this is a day one purchase for me, because there's absolutely no way I won't be diving into the depths of Subnautica 2 and exploring what's out there. Because it's one of my favorite series of all time, which is ironic because I really don't like survival games at all. I've played The Forest, I've played Rust, and everything in between, and I really don't enjoy them. But Subnautica is so beautiful, so breathtaking, so mysterious, and so fascinating that even if you're someone like me who doesn't usually like games like this, it will immediately pull you in and show you why it's special. And if Subnautica 2 can even capture a hint of what made the first game so amazing, we're in for something really special. And speaking of special games, another one that I'm really excited for that definitely is special is Death Stranding 2. This is another game that I didn't get around to actually playing the first installment until years after its initial release, this time on PC. But I have to tell you, it's once again not only one of the most unique experiences I've had in games, but one of the most moving. Whereas most games pit you in one corridor shooter to the next with high action constantly, Death Stranding is all about the slower moments, simply walking over a mountain as music plays in the background, listening to the pitter-patter of rain in the distance as it goes through canyons you'll soon be going through yourself, or just looking out into grand vistas and taking it all in. It's a series that's certainly not for everyone, and I can't even recommend it despite how much I love it, because you'll either love Death Stranding or hate it with a passion. And either makes sense, honestly. It really depends on what you're looking for. But if you're someone like me, you adore Death Stranding and all it has to offer. Not only because it's kind of a palate cleanser compared to most games that we play nowadays, but despite how weird and esoteric it can be, it's so fun to dive into the story, the world building, and this United States that has been torn apart. I mean, seriously, if you guys haven't played Death Stranding yet, just look up someone playing like the first hour or so. You will be taken aback by how crazy, weird, and strange this story can get. And trust me, you will not see a lot of the twists and turns coming. And that's what has me so excited about Death Stranding 2. Not only do we know from the trailer so far that that's the exact kind of style this game is going for once again, if not even more, but just getting to experience the world of Death Stranding again, this time on release, is something that's so exciting. And for me, I hope the series can just continue to push forward with its weird themes, but also adding more mechanics to use out in the open world for exploration, more types of biomes, more lore and world building built into the world itself. And I think if you add all that, you're looking at a game that can capture not only a bigger audience, but more of our hearts as well. So while it most certainly won't be for everyone, Death Stranding is the type of game that is exactly for me. One that will show you new music that you love, open beauty right before your eyes, and make you just sit back and take it all in. The perfect type of game to play on a rainy day when it's cold outside, just sitting by the fireplace and looking out into beautiful vistas. But only time will tell how it turns out, and I'm excited to see. Next up, let's talk about a title that I'm somewhat worried for, but cautiously optimistic, and that's Borderlands 4. You see, as a kid, I fell in love with the Borderlands series. Me and my friends played Borderlands 2 for hours on end after school every day. And Borderlands 3, while super cringy, I still had a fun time with, and the Tiny Tina's game was pretty fun, but once again, they just weren't exactly what I was looking for. And that's because the Borderlands writing as of recently is not just bad, it's tragically bad. So bad that it quite literally ruins the game, similar to say Dragon Age the Veilguard. And really, I'm hoping that for Borderlands 4, they take that feedback that the community's been giving them over the past couple years and actually make an interesting and compelling narrative, more similar to say Borderlands 1 and 2, but with all of the awesome gun mechanics, RNG, and just fun looting and shooting that we know and love from the series. That doesn't mean you have to take away the jokes or wackiness. I just hope you ground it in something that's a little more adult because, let's be honest, a lot of the Borderlands fans now probably have families and kids and are much older, and they don't want to just hear potty humor over and over again. And based on the trailer that we've already seen, some of the environments look really awesome. The game looks fun to play. It looks like it'll be amazing to actually shoot and pick up weapons like all the other Borderlands games. And on top of that, so far the narrative does seem a little more held back and not so wacky and zany, which I'm hoping will stay true throughout the entire storyline of the game. The only thing that does have me a little concerned are the models for the characters we can play in game look not that great, so I'm hoping they can be changed up a little before release, but even if they aren't, I personally don't care about that stuff as much. As long as the writing is good and the gameplay is fun, that's what we're here for in Borderlands, and if that's there, then Borderlands 4 hopefully will be a return to form. Next up, let's talk about all of the Xbox games coming out this year. By all accounts from what I've seen, this year might be absolutely crazy for Xbox. We've already talked about Avowed and The Outer Worlds 2, games I'm really excited for as well, but there's a ton more coming as well. We have South of Midnight, potentially Fable, Doom the Dark Ages, and maybe potentially even other games as well. And overall, I'm just extremely pumped to see what Xbox has in store for us coming up in 2025. For South of Midnight, while it's not the usual type of game I enjoy, the art style and design is immaculate. And from the trailers and gameplay we've seen so far, and due to the fact that it's going to be on Game Pass day one, I'm definitely going to play this game, and hopefully it'll surprise me with how much I like it. I'm not necessarily super looking forward to it, but it does look pretty cool. Outside of that, Fable, on the other hand, is one I'm very excited for. I did play all 3 original Fable games as a kid, but to be honest, not only do I not remember much about them, but at the time, I just thought they were fine. I enjoyed the games, but for me, they were nothing like, say, Oblivion or Mass Effect. However, having said that, the team and people working on this game behind the scenes are some of the best in the industry, and the short glimpses we've gotten of the game look absolutely fantastic. And based on a lot of leaks and rumors, it plays even better than it looks. So maybe more than any other Xbox game, Fable is the one I'm looking to see how they do in their biggest AAA titles. Because if we're being honest, one of their other big AAA, Doom the Dark Ages, most likely is going to be amazing. And that's because the last 2 Doom games are so fun. It's almost impossible not to like them. And whether or not you like Doom or Doom Eternal better, they're both so crazy and fun to just sit down and play. And Doom the Dark Ages, if anything, looks like it might be the best out of all of those. And honestly, I don't even have much to say here. If you just give us more of Doom with more medieval gadgets and crazy things happening, I think everyone's gonna be happy with that one. So really what it comes down to for me then is Fable and what Fable is going to turn out to be. And honestly, I don't really know because not only is it a new studio, but I feel like Fable as a series has kind of lost a lot of agency in what it even is. For me, I would love to see a big open world with lots to do, tons of choices to make, and dynamic AI that reacts realistically to whatever we do within the world. Add in some fun British humor on top of this with a lot of stat checks and really breathtaking environments, and I would immediately be down for whatever else Fable is doing. And more than anything, I'm just excited to see where this series is going to go next because there's so much potential. And finally, I mentioned it earlier in this video, but one of my favorite parts about games is just the anticipation and the excitement. And for 2025, there are potentially a lot of studios that I really love coming out and announcing what they're working on next, and that has me so excited. First of all, I have a feeling we might see what Owlcat's next game could be. They're the people behind the Pathfinder series, which, I'm going to be honest, another unpopular opinion, I am not a fan of at all. I find the world really boring despite the combat being cool. But they also made the recent Warhammer Rogue Trader, and man, is that game amazing. And on top of that, its most recent DLC, Void Shadows, is even better. And that's because Rogue Trader is one of the most deep and immersive RPGs I've played. And it's actually my first introduction to the Warhammer series of all time, and just from playing Rogue Trader, I'm now absolutely in love with all of Warhammer and want to know more and more. So that gets me excited for what Owlcat could be working on next. My worst case scenario obviously would be they make another Pathfinder game, which there's a very good chance that's the case, but I would love to see them make more in the Warhammer series personally, as I think it has so much more interesting world building and lore. But maybe even more interesting is the potential that Owlcat is also working on some new IPs, of which they've hinted to multiple times now. And I just have to say that I've seen this studio improve so much with each game they've put out. And if they continue on this trajectory, of which they're now saying all of their future games will have full voice acting, which is very much needed. Trust me, I love Rogue Trader, but it's hard to get through with all the reading. I'm just so excited to see where Owlcat can go. As one of the most hardcore CRPG makers on the market right now, they have some truly amazing games that deserve even more players. And I think they might finally hit their stride here and almost finally have their Baldur's Gate 3 moment like Larian, where they really reach the mainstream. And speaking of Larian, that's another studio I'm really excited for. I think it might still be too early to actually hear about Larian's next game, but maybe at the Game Awards in 2025, we could get a hint. After all, remember, for Baldur's Gate 3, it was announced quite early and was in early access for years. So if Larian is trying to go by the same model they've used for all of their games previously, it actually makes sense we might be hearing about what their next title is here very shortly, and afterwards, it'll go into early access for quite some time. There's a lot of rumors on what Larian could be working on next, whether that's a new fantasy game or something modern, but for me, I would love to see something in a sci-fi universe. I've seen some people throw around the idea, for example, that Larian makes Knights of the Old Republic 3, which I think would be an absolute bombshell and amazing. But even if it's not Star Wars or some other property we all know about, I think I would even prefer they make their own universe this time. Larian has some really talented writers and creators, and to see them put all of their brains together to make a fully unique IP in a science fiction universe with their same style of combat and immersive design would be absolutely amazing. Not only because we don't really have any science fiction games like that outside of Rogue Trader, which doesn't quite have the budget of, say, Baldur's Gate 3, but I just think that could really bring so many people together in a love for science fiction and all the possibilities it has. And I'm really hoping that Larian's next game is science fiction, but even if it's not, they are such an amazing studio that I will be there day one for whatever they make because of how amazing what they've made before has been. And finally, there's just a lot of other studios that could be making really interesting games as well. I'm excited to see maybe potentially more in Gears of War, and also a studio not enough people are talking about, which is ZeniMax Online, the creators of Elder Scrolls Online. Because you see, they've been rumored to be making a game for multiple years now, something totally unexpected that either is a new MMO or something different entirely. And I just have a feeling that that studio, with the amount of talent and people they have, might be crafting something truly remarkable. Outside of that, I'm also very excited to see how this next Perfect Dark turns out. After all, it looks like Deus Ex, which is right up my alley. And outside of that, I really want to see what Sony Santa Monica is working on. It's a rumored sci-fi game, which, as you guys all know now, I absolutely adore. And also, the new Naughty Dog game, while quite controversial right now, has some really amazing music. And if we can see more gameplay and how the mechanics of the game works, with hopefully a lot of horror elements, I'm all in for that. But overall, those are the games I'm most excited for in 2025. There's a lot on this list that are missing, like say Elden Ring Night Rain, but that's because I just don't like these games as much. Yakuza is another good example, Monster Hunter, a ton of titles that I know you guys are probably really excited for, but if I'm being honest, I just am not into those titles very much. But despite that, there's still so much on offer coming out this year that is truly going to be amazing. And I'm sure, like all years before, there's going to be some standouts that appear out of nowhere and surprise us all. So I can't wait to see by the end of the year what the biggest standouts were and what the biggest losers were as well. And let me know down below what you guys are looking forward to. What games are you excited to play in 2025 and why? What are you hoping that each of these games I talked about here turns out to be? Because honestly, 2025 is shaping up to potentially be one of the best years for gaming of all time. And I can't wait to see how it pans out. So I hope you guys are having a great start to the year, and I wish you the best in this upcoming year. Thank you as always for watching the videos and supporting me here. And also, while you're at it, let me know down below what you guys want to see next. What do you want to see me talk about? I'm really enjoying making videos like this that are more casual, unlike the main channel videos where I spend hours and hours doing documentary style things. It's fun to just kind of sit here and talk about games with you guys. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. And if you do want to watch the live streams and talk to me in person, I stream every Sunday around middle of the day Pacific Standard Time. And as always, thanks for watching.